Welcome to the Communities of Character podcast, the show that shares rich conversation about character development across different vocations and callings. I'm Jennifer Hogan, and today we're continuing our series on the 11 Principles Framework from Character.org. And today's guest is Andrea Hamner, the principal at Huntington Place Elementary, a school in the Tuscaloosa County School District, and a school that was named a National School of Character in 2020. I did call her Dr. Andrea Hamner in my introduction, and she asked me to make the correction that she does not have her doctorate. So my apologies there. I guess I got excited in talking with her and learning from her expertise in leading a school in the area of character education. Today we discuss Principle 6 of the 11 principles, and you're going to love hearing from her as much as I did. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Communities of Character podcast, a place where you can learn about all things character. I'm your host, Jennifer Hogan, and in today's episode, I'm chatting with a principal of a National School of Character, Dr. Andrea Hamner. Welcome, Andrea.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing great, and I'm so thrilled to have you on the podcast today. And for our listeners who may not be familiar with you, would you share a little bit about your current context?
Well, I'm actually the principal at Huntington Place Elementary. We're in Tuscaloosa County. This is my 10th year to be at this school and serve as the principal. Our school has third and fourth grade students, but this is the first year that we've had just third and fourth grade. At the beginning of this year, our fifth graders started attending an intermediate school. And next year, we're actually just going to also have third and fourth grade. So our school has always just had a good reputation for being a strong school academically. So for us, when we started looking at character education, it was just something that we found that was missing here. And we felt called to just serve our families with character and just help our boys and girls just grow up to be men and women of character. So I'm just excited today to be able to share about the passion that we have for our students at Huntington.
Well, it's an incredible honor, and just congratulations to you and your school community at Huntington Place Elementary for receiving the distinction of being named a National School of Character, and for your commitment to building a culture of character there at your school. And if you don't mind, would you just tell us how you got involved in character education?
So it was about 5 years ago when I was approached by Kara Chisholm and the Hope Institute about becoming part of the Hope Institute. I can remember that excitement that I felt when she shared the mission and vision of Hope Institute. Our school had already been working on building meaningful relationships with our students and our families and our staff, and we had already started implementing just better ways to connect with our students. We were focusing with rigor and relevance and relationships, and the goals of Hope Institute, they just perfectly aligned with our school's focus. We sent a team of teachers to Hope that first year, and they ended up completing all 3 years. And then we continued to send another team the year after that just to help us bring back what we were learning. Honestly, the teachers and the students, they took the lead in making the changes at our school. For us, I gave them time to come back and talk about what they had learned. I helped support them in the work. I worked alongside them. But it definitely was the students and the staff that took the lead. And if you were to ask me 5 years ago if we would be where we are today, I couldn't have imagined all the positives that have come from making character education the most important thing that we do at Huntington. We firmly believe that character education is not another thing on the plate, it is the plate.
That's awesome. And I know that Hope Institute uses the 11 Principles framework. And today we're diving deep into Principle 6 of that framework from Character.org. And Principle 6 is about offering a meaningful and challenging academic curriculum that does three things: that it respects all learners, it develops their character, and helps them succeed. So tell us, what does it mean to you to offer a challenging academic curriculum that develops students' character?
So a school that is focused on teaching students about character, in my opinion, it doesn't have just isolated lessons that are once a week from the school counselor. It's not something that we can go out and purchase. It's not a program that people are looking for. And for us, it's something that's truly a culture of the school. So at our school, we worked hard to develop our school's core values. And we found that at Huntington, we valued honesty, kindness, compassion, respect, and responsibility And our teachers, they teach these core values when they teach all subjects. So to begin with, we had to really be super intentional about making sure we were including them in our lessons and just our everyday language, to make sure that we were teaching our values. And I think about, what that looked like to begin with. It was us brainstorming lessons and looking for ways to implement them in the curriculum. But now it's just something that happens naturally. It's what they
Mhm.
do in the classrooms. They're looking daily for ways to make sure that we're teaching character education. So prior to this, our school just had maybe the counselor that was just that as the focus, but now it's a school wide focus. I can remember last year a conversation that I had with a teacher, and she was sharing with me that after every morning and morning meeting, just talking about each other's feelings and different point of views and how things that make us feel, and just focusing on character education, when it was time to teach about theme in the classroom, she said those kids immediately understood that, and just the inferences that they were making were just so much more meaningful. So
Mhm.
for us, I believe that we have time daily set aside for morning meetings where we talk specifically about just how we treat each other and how to respond to each other. And our school calls that the Wildcat Way. If you were to ask our staff if they would ever skip morning meeting, the answer would be no, because it starts off the day with the right focus. It sets the tone for the day. It makes sure that we're checking in with students to see how they are. So for us, character education, it's not just isolated lessons. It's something that you see woven throughout just the core of who we are in our daily activities.
Wow, that is powerful. The Wildcat Way, that is really powerful. Well, as we know, students come to school, with different interests and learning needs at all ability levels. Share with us how Huntington Place Elementary builds and maintains a culture of high academic expectations while also providing meaningful and appropriate challenges for students of all ability levels.
So, our school has spent a lot of time in the PLC process and just really understanding about how to make sure what we're teaching our students and that they're learning at high levels. We spent time understanding what tier one, tier two, and tier three instruction should look like. We have structures in place where we are looking to help students. One of those structures is the problem solving team.
Mm,
And we have spent time making sure that we're providing targeted instruction for those struggling students. Um, we use research based and evidence based interventions in our tier three. It's super important to make sure that the programs that we use have shown that students are going to learn. The past 2 years, we've really been diving deep in the SHRIP plans and helping to make sure that we're supporting our struggling readers. Um, our focus isn't just on strugglers, but also on acceleration, because at our school
mm,
we have a high population of students that we need to challenge. So we've provided acceleration to students that need acceleration. We've even had to double promote some students who needed more challenge because the
wow.
acceleration model wasn't enough for them. We have a full time gifted teacher that teaches in our school, and students are able to attend classes outside of their general classroom to help support. So for us, it's not just about making sure that we're meeting just that traditional learner, but we're making sure that we're meeting
Mm,
all the needs of all of our students and making sure
mhm.
that they're all challenged and supported wherever they are. Because for us, sure that students learn and learn at high levels.
That is awesome. Well, what kind of professional development do your teachers attend to learn how to provide this differentiated instruction or other kinds of strategies to meet the needs of these diverse learners? And in your opinion, which ones have been the most effective?
So, our teachers have received a lot of training in the PLC process, and that has been ongoing for the past few years. But just this past year, our teachers were trained in how to use the Brain Spring intervention program. It's a multi-sensory intervention based on the science of reading. And by the beginning of next year, all of our third grade teachers will have been enrolled in letters training, which is based on the science of reading. We also have teachers that are working with AMSTI, and we have AMSTI coaches that come in and support those teachers. We have teachers that have been trained on how to use technology to support our students. And when our teachers go to training, they turn that training around to our staff. And I think that turnaround training makes it so much more meaningful. Our instructional coach, she has spent time training the whole staff on how to use essentials. And that's a program that helps students encode and decode words and has proven to be very effective. And the sensories in this program are multisensory. And our instructional coach also supports our teachers on the best way to differentiate instruction. Um, I would say this year, one thing that we found to be super meaningful is diving deep in the iReady data to determine the student's strengths and weaknesses. But to answer your question about the most effective strategy, I believe is just using multisensory strategies in all of our lessons. And one program that we would all say that we have found very effective is Essentials because it is helping all of our students become better readers and writers.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to link these things that you've mentioned in our show notes. And for anyone who's not in Alabama that might be listening to this podcast, AMSTI is a state program that we have, the Alabama Math Science Technology Initiative. It's STEM training, and how lucky that you are to have an instructional coach. And it sounds like that person is doing a great job with keeping the professional development ongoing for your teachers, and you're very data driven. So I love hearing all of those things, and I'm sure our listeners are just getting tons of ideas from you through that one mention. But one goal of this podcast is for our listeners to walk away with practical ideas that they can implement or use as a springboard for other ideas. Would you share an example or two of how your teachers integrate character education into the academic content and instruction?
So our counselor works hard to share resources each month because we have a monthly focus for core values, and our teachers highlight those monthly core values in their lessons. So
Mm.
the teachers use that information to make sure that they're woven throughout the school day with concepts that they're teaching in their classroom. But we also have had two staff members that were trained in the mindfulness curriculum, and in those classrooms, they use that to really just interact with each other, help solve daily problems and issues that arise. And then I'm able to cluster some students in those classrooms that would benefit from that curriculum. And they have been able to really just problem solve and be able to just take responsibility for actions in much better ways. So I certainly would recommend people finding out more information about the mindfulness curriculum. But teachers have found ways to incorporate our core values in all the lessons. They look at characters and stories. They're looking to see if people have shown honesty. Have they shown kindness, responsibility, compassion, and respectfulness? And they're integrating it in their academic and content area naturally. At first, we really had to just dig deep to see how to do that, but now it's just something that they do. And every time that it comes up in stories, it just naturally the
Mm.
conversation happens. And the students are looking for ways that people are showing Wildcat Way or they're not showing the Wildcat Way.
Mm. Well, in thinking about like the importance of modeling core values, how do you train the teachers who are new to your school to ensure that they know and model core values and continue to build a culture of character?
So we're certainly committed to training our new staff on the core values at Huntington. We have to be super intentional in making sure that they know the values of our school and what that means to our school culture. When we're looking to hire new staff, we ask them about how they would model the core values and how
Mhm.
they would incorporate it throughout the school day because we're looking for people who have the same mindset that we
Mhm.
do and who have the same values we do. But we have a written plan that is shared with our staff each year. We look and we see how we are implementing those 11 principles in our school. We look at that rubric that's provided by character.org and we're reflective on how to continue to make improvements. Because for us, it's not something that we do in an isolated event, it's an ongoing improving process. So we're revisiting that throughout the summer, throughout the year, and in our training is something that we refocus on in our back to school meetings. And we look at those goals throughout the year. Honestly, it's just embedded in our culture, and everyone who comes to our school knows the expectations of our school because we model it. We talk about it frequently with students and staff. And it doesn't stop there. We also involve our parents in conversations at parent nights. It's always interesting to me when parents come because they're like, well, I was wondering what they're talking about this Wildcat way. And they always leave feeling like they have a better understanding of what our school's values are, and certainly have seen those kids transfer that at home. And that, to me, ultimately shows that what we're doing is working when they take it outside the four walls of the school.
And the pandemic has caused great changes in education in a short time. Would you just share with us how your school's been able to maintain these high expectations through the pandemic and with the limitations that have been in place?
So when we first started realizing that the pandemic wasn't just an extended spring break, we had to really learn to communicate with each other because it was challenging communicating with students and staff and families because we all had to be at home. And we had to be creative to find ways to still connect with one another. And staying connected was our first priority because people were feeling isolated, alone, afraid. And we really had no idea what was going to happen. And we felt like our students needed the consistency of our school. They
Mhm.
needed their teacher, their classmates. But we also wanted to make sure we made learning an expectation. So we worked together to make learning packets that were meaningful for our students. We found a framework that all the grades used, so there was consistency from grade level to grade level and classroom to classroom. We sent home workbooks and textbooks so that students could continue to learn. We uploaded lessons for all content areas, so we weren't just focused on reading and math. We were thinking about science and social studies and PE and music and guidance and technologies. And our teachers, they held weekly meetings and made sure that we were supporting students. We even had teachers who went out to homes and sat in driveways to teach children. So
Wow.
we had, and I mean, those kinds of things happen without me asking them to do it.
Mhm.
Teachers made phone calls to home to make sure that the students had what they needed. We made sure we sent home lessons for our gifted students so that they were challenged. Our special education students, they had the support that they needed. Then, when school came back last year and we had remote students, we had to have some pretty serious conversations to see how we would support our students at home. And finally, we decided to dedicate a team of teachers to teach the students on a remote learning platform. They uploaded lessons that looked just like the teachers were teaching in the classrooms. They were available by phone calls during school hours. Students could also come to school to see their teacher if their parents felt comfortable scheduling one on one time or a small group lesson. All of that was extremely time consuming, but it was very well worth it. And other people called us and they asked us how we were doing that because we received so much positive feedback from the model that our teachers created. Our
Mhm.
priority, though, in that was the relationships and connections with students, but we kept learning the focus. We didn't lose sight of making sure that relationships were important. Our staff was highlighted in some news articles, but that's not why we did that.
Sure.
Um, you know, I think our goal wasn't the recognition, but it does show that they were committed to high standards for students. And I was thankful to see that they recognized the hard work of our staff. This year, when we've had teachers who were absent, our teachers have found ways to go in the classroom and to teach concepts that maybe a sub couldn't teach because for us, it's not just about it being my students in my classroom, but it's our students. This was done without me even saying that they should do this. And so, this to me shows that this is truly just representative that our students at our school are our students. And we certainly are trying our best to make sure we meet all their academic goals.
What a caring staff, and talk about modeling core values and being people of character. That is just so inspirational. I love hearing that. I may go back and re-listen to this episode to hear all that again. But as we wrap up today's episode, I like to ask every guest for a book or a podcast recommendation that's been impactful in their character journey. Do you have a recommendation for us?
So, as I think through that, I try to stay up to date with social issues that are happening with our students and families because right now I can say more than ever that we are seeing a greater number of students who are dealing with depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues that I think are a direct result of just what we've been through the past few years. And we have to be super sensitive to those family needs. And so for
Mhm.
me, I'm reading articles and staying current with those because those kinds of things are things that impact our school.
Mm.
Um, but as far as a book, one of the things that I felt like was the most meaningful was You Can't Teach Through a Rat. And I was, presented that when I went to Hope Institute. And if kids have other things on their minds when they're walking in, they're not really ready to engage in those conversations about academics. And so for us, that's why our morning meeting happens. So it gives us time to just really get whatever was on their mind when they came in so that we could really connect with them, and then the kids are really ready to learn.
Yeah, that's a great book by Dr. Marvin Berkowitz. I'll be sure to link that in the show notes as well. And Andrew, today's been such a great conversation about your school's culture of character. And our listeners may want to reach out to you to learn more. What are the best ways for our listeners to engage with you?
So at our school, we have Facebook, and we also have Twitter and Instagram. But I'm also on Facebook. I really probably am a little bit older, so I really am not a much of a Twitter person. I do Instagram some, but mainly where I really share a lot of thoughts and just things that are happening at school is through Facebook. And I really think that's been a really wonderful way for me to be able to learn from other educators in those platforms.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. You and your school community are doing great things, and you serve as an exemplar for all of us. And we just appreciate the work you lead and for spending time with us today. And to our listeners, thank you for being here with us as we all learn and grow in the area of character education. Please show us some love by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, take care, friends.